So I've been on the internet for a long time, and most of it, at least where I hang out, pretty reasonable, which is great. But, you know, there are some tucked away in the corners every once in a while that do have some pretty controversial opinions, things that they actually believe in, some hot takes that are guaranteed to ruffle some feathers. But sometimes there is some truth to them. So today I've gathered some of the hottest takes from around the internet from you guys, and we're gonna see if they're actually good takes or not. Also, I need to thank Jimmy High Roller for the concept for this video. If you haven't already seen his channel, he does a lot of basketball videos, including reacting to NBA hot takes. They're incredible. So if you're interested in basketball and somehow haven't seen his channel already, I'll link it below. But let's get into some tech hot takes. So here's a hot take. Tesla Cybertruck will outsell the Ford F-150 by 2026. And this is a hot one. So the Cybertruck is one of the most hyped vehicles in a long time, as long as I've been alive. Certainly the most hyped EV, you know, the numbers speak for themselves. But now they're actually being spotted around the roads around Tesla headquarters, and it seems like they're finishing up details of manufacturing and design, and they may be about to finally go into production with this thing. Now the hot take is that it'll outsell the F-150 in 3 years, because the F-150, as you may already know, is very popular. But the thing is, and I don't know if you thought about this as you were typing it, I don't know if you realize how popular the F-150 actually is. The Ford F-150 has been America's best-selling truck for 46 years in a row. Actually, it's been the #1 most popular vehicle for 41 years straight. Last year, Ford sold one of these trucks every 49 seconds. And it typically totals anywhere from 600,000 to just under 1 million of these things every single calendar year. So yeah, the Cybertruck, very hyped. And there are allegedly somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5 million pre-orders, which is crazy for a vehicle that's not even out yet, that only a handful of people have even seen with their eyes. But a couple of things. First of all, those pre-orders are $100 deposits. I know that because I'm one of them. I think they're actually $100 refundable deposits. The point being, 1.5 million pre-orders does not equal 1.5 million sales. It's just that many people have reserved their spot in line, and some fraction of them will convert to orders, but it won't be 100%. And Tesla knows that. But then number two, you can't just build them all at once. You have to ramp up into production. We've seen this with other models before. So, you know, they'll start off small, a couple dozen one week, then 100 the next week, then 500 the next week, and they'll have to ramp up. It'll take a while to get through the first million, easily well over a year. Like at this very moment, Tesla doesn't even have the capacity to make 1 million Model 3s, let alone 1 million of something they've never made before. So, you know, we could be optimistic about the manufacturing process, but it's gonna be tough to get to 1 million of these things sold and dethroning the king by 2026. So I love the optimism about the Cybertruck possibly being one of the most disruptive vehicles ever. Maybe, could happen, but it's gonna take a little more time than that. Bad take. All right, here's another one. That Apple Maps is now better than Google Maps. And this is a interesting take. Do you remember when Apple Maps first came out? Like all the horror stories, the articles that all came out, how bad it was. There were entire towns missing. There were places that were just in the wrong spot. It was getting people lost, driving them into water. It was missing a ton of features. It was so bad that Tim Cook, the CEO, had to issue an apology. But a lot of things have changed since then. Basically, I mean, having a good Maps app requires a lot of mapping data. So they've been plugging away at that since that launch, of course. All the Street View data, the correct location data, businesses, public transportation, different actual routes, real-time traffic, all that stuff, they've improved dramatically at all of that. Plus, they've actually started adding some genuinely cool features on top of it. I can actually vouch that if you look at Google Street View and Apple Maps Street View in the same location, 9 times out of 10, the Apple Maps one is actually higher quality and smoother and looks better. It's easier to navigate. I also think Apple Maps is generally better designed. It's just a little better looking than Google Maps. And as of the latest iOS 17 beta, it's actually finally getting one of the biggest features that was missing, which is downloading maps for offline. Finally. I'm not ready to say that Apple Maps is better than Google Maps yet. I mean, especially because, first of all, it's multi-platform. It's just so much more available. And then the decades-long head start that Google's had in mapping and gathering information in the most obscure parts of the world, like it's going to take some time for Apple to continue to catch up with that. But I will say that it's at least caught up to Google Maps. They're on the same level. They're actually competitors, which is good because now they compete to try to get better. And for certain people, in some places, sometimes it's just as good, if not better, than Google Maps. There, I said it. I said it. It's a good take. The Magic Mouse is the best mouse for the Mac. You know, y'all are really pushing this one. Let's just ignore the take for a second and just talk about how does the Magic Mouse exist? Like, how is this the best mouse that Apple, the world's richest $3 trillion company, could come up with? Well, over billions of dollars of research and development dollars and the best designers in the world and all the testing and optimizations and strategy on the planet. This is the best mouse that they could come up with? Seriously? Sorry, I should be more objective here. What makes a good mouse? Zoom out a little bit. Good design, good performance, good features, good price. The best mouse cannot have a fatal flaw in more than one of these fundamental categories. And we all know about the fact that the only way to charge it is a lightning port, and they put that port at the bottom of the mouse, so you literally can't even use it while you're waiting for it to charge. It might only happen once a month, but that's more than it should ever happen. But on top of that, it's also terrible ergonomically. I mean, there's a reason why all the other best mice in the world have an arch to rest your hand. But look, Olir's a smart guy. I don't think he's trolling. This is not a completely empty take. The reason why people genuinely feel this way about the Magic Mouse is because Apple has done to this accessory what they've done to every other accessory that they possibly can in their universe, which is making it impossible to make a better one than the Apple one. Like, you literally cannot make a better smartwatch for the iPhone because you'll never get as much access to the data and the integration that Apple gives its own watch. You can literally never make headphones that pair more fluidly and switch more easily than Apple's own AirPods. And the Magic Mouse, well, the Magic Mouse has smooth scrolling. Literally, the best and only good feature about the Magic Mouse is that it has really smooth scrolling and gestures. So you can scroll up and down with one finger and it just flows with the inertia of a touchscreen. Like, you can toss web pages and apps around and catch them with this smooth scrolling. You can two-finger swipe between spaces. You can zoom in and out of things. It's so smooth, just like a mouse should be. And every single other mouse for Mac scrolls in jittery chunks, basically because they literally have to just pick an integer for how many lines they want to scroll with every unit scrolled on the scroll wheel. It's just night and day difference. There's just no way for it to be as smooth. Now, this is also true about the Magic Trackpad, which is actually why I literally use one on my desk alongside a good mouse. And I know plenty of people who just use a trackpad and no mouse at all. So if you really listen to people who defend the Magic Mouse, you'll typically hear something along the lines of, well, except for insert giant flaw here, it's a great mouse. Except for comfortableness, it's amazing. Except for the whole charging on the bottom thing, which you only do once in a while, it's great. But that's a pretty big thing for a mouse. I mean, there's really not much that they have to get right. The Magic Mouse is one of the most frustrating Apple products because it could be so good. They could, with their trillions of dollars, they could just hire a building full of the best mouse designers on the planet. They could buy whatever people they want to design the most incredible mouse mankind has ever seen, and it could have smooth scrolling. But they don't do it. They don't do it. I knew this was coming. It's a bad take. Tensor sucks, and Google should have stuck with Snapdragon. I can get behind half of this take. Not the whole thing, but I can get behind half of this. Tensor is not great, you know? Like, 2 years ago, Google made this bold choice to move from Qualcomm Snapdragon chips in their phones to their own custom designed Tensor chip that's actually built by Samsung. And the idea was to be able to dedicate certain parts of the chip to certain functions, whether AI related or just specific to the phone, speech to text, things like that. We are 2 generations in now, so we're at Tensor G2 in the Pixel, and they have relatively weak raw performance, and they also don't have great battery life, and they're not very efficient. So I get why people say Tensor sucks, but I don't think they should have stuck with Snapdragon. I still think there's time. I still think in 2 or 3 generations even, they could get to the point where they have such good optimization and such good calibration with exactly what they want to do with these chips that they'll be the most efficient, best battery life, best experience, something that they could never have created by just buying an off-the-shelf bunch of Snapdragon chips. So I think today, like if today they literally offered a Snapdragon Google Pixel with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and a Tensor G2, I think today I would pick the Snapdragon one, but I don't think they should just give up on the Tensor Dream. Okay take. All right, Beats are and have always been very good. Often people pretend that sound isn't incredibly subjective. A natural/audiophilic sound is always less enjoyable and more jarring outside of pro referencing. You bring up a really good point. Audio is subjective. Audio is definitely subjective. Back in the days of making fun of Beats headphones for being overpriced garbage sounding plastic, there was always a little kernel of truth underneath it all, which is that people still bought Beats all the time and enjoyed them. And I always found that fascinating, that you could literally tell people that there's another pair of headphones out there that sounds better for half the money, and people in that world where it seems like a totally straightforward choice, they would still pick the Beats and love them and recommend them. And the truth is, for most people, if you just give them their first pair of nice headphones, their first pair of expensive headphones, and they've got this nice V-shaped equalizer, a big thumping bass, and they're not really thinking too hard about it being nice and flat and a nice professional sound, they're gonna be impressed. It's gonna sound really exciting and interesting for most music listening, which is what people are doing with Beats headphones. It's great, it's fine. Audio it really is one of the most subjective things in all of the tech world, and there are tons of reviews and studies out there with countless examples of this. It kind of feels like the only trait in audio that people universally find impressive is just loudness, just higher volume, but kind of across the board, anyone can kind of enjoy any sound signature. And generally, headphones these days are good enough to have an EQ and be able to sound differently based on different types of music and movies and whatever you're doing. Now, all that being said, I don't think I could still say that Beats have always been very good. At some point in the past, they were definitely a much more expensive, cheaply built version of the average headphones you could kind of just get anywhere else. But the marketing team has always been very good. That has always been good. So I think, decent headphones today, decent take. Also, side note, I continue to be so fascinated by the behavior of them as a company, like Beats, since they've been purchased by Apple. And the newest pair of Beats by Dre Studio Pro headphones are the latest example of that. Let me know if you guys are interested in a video about these things by hitting that like button. Either way, this has been really fun. I think we should do this again sometime for sure. Not doing that one. So leave your hot takes. I say leave them in the comments section below, and I'll sort of comb through those. It's not even mathematically correct. And I'll comb through those and I'll find the best ones, and we'll do another tech hot takes video in the future. Have you read my shirt this entire video? And I think that'll be really fun. Just make sure they're a little more varied and different from this past one. I hate this one.
Polybridge 3 was released recently. Okay, well, I might be a bit late to this one, but still, it's a relevant topic on YouTube, and it's also pretty fun. But there's a problem. I'm way too busy to be playing this right now. Instead of solving all of these puzzles, I could create a program that could solve it for me. Specifically, a program using a genetic algorithm, an AI if you will, which can solve all of these puzzles automatically for me and try and get the lowest cost possible. To start off, I will need to replicate the entire Polybridge game. Okay, maybe not everything, but just the most important part, the bridge building and simulation. To do this, I used my game engine of choice, Unity. This is actually what Polybridge is made in, so it also gives an extra touch of authenticity, but I guarantee this won't be anywhere near as polished. Bridge building in the game has two distinct steps. The paused mode, where the simulation is not running and you can freely place points and connect roads or supports. Then the simulation mode, where you can no longer place anything and the bridge is simulated, usually with cars driving across its surface. Let's start with the first one. I created a point prefab and a road prefab, and made it so that when you press the left mouse button, a road starts being made and connects to another point at the end of your cursor. I also want the shape to be predictable, so I snap the points to the nearest whole number. I also use this bit of code here in order to make the road piece rotate towards the point and to scale it to the correct size. After that, I created the simulation aspect, which automatically generates hinge joint 2D components on each of the pieces, with the anchor and connected body automatically configured. Now, when I click play, the bridge is simulated. The script generates the required components, and Unity's physics system handles the rest. We also don't want road pieces to collide with each other, only other things, and luckily, Unity has this awesome setting in the project settings to turn off collision between specific objects, so I turned off self-collision. Now, one problem we have is that this bridge is indestructible. Clearly, it was made by engineers, so in order to fix this, we just need some architects. So this is the game, but now we want the actually interesting part of this. I began implementing the genetic algorithm. If you don't already know, let me explain how it works. In a genetic algorithm, there's a population of agents. In each generation, these agents are tested and their performance is scored using a fitness function. After they are all scored, some of the best ones are chosen to reproduce and create offspring for the next generation. Their genes, which are just a list of numbers, are combined between the two parents using different crossover methods. There's also a small chance for a genetic mutation. Through this relatively simple process, it is possible to train an agent to solve many different types of problems. Before I can start making this work with the genetic algorithm, we first need to have a way to programmatically place points and create bridge pieces from coordinates. So I created this function, which allows me to input 2 points in the form of Unity's vector2s, and it will create a bridge piece. I then created this test function, which just builds a predefined bridge, and there we go, easy integration. Now for the fun part. Each agent in the population will have its own script, which will handle everything from calculating its fitness to spawning in the bridge pieces according to its genome. Inside the script, I created an initialization function, along with an elapse function. The initialize function will run when the entity is spawned in by the population manager, and copy all of the required data, as well as perform initial calculations, and build the bridge using the functions we created earlier. The elapse function is used to perform calculations during the simulation phase, such as calculating the fitness, checking if any failure parameters have happened, such as any pieces breaking, or accelerating the car's rigid body. This function is similar to what the update function in Unity is used for, except instead of being run continuously as fast as possible, it is run at a deterministic speed at the same time as all of the other agents. This is especially
Zype_235. Hello.
What's up, Zype235? How you going?
Zype_235. You good?
Yeah. How about you? Can you hear me? Should be able to.
Zype_235. Me good.
That's good.
Zype_235. Don't fall.
No, I would never.
simulations like this. Now it is time to make that population manager, which will keep track of the 100 or so agents, and perform all of the genetic algorithms required to make them improve. We first instantiate all of the agents, along with a genome script to go along with it. I didn't actually make a genome script, and just reused my very old neural network class, because I'm lazy. Then, in the fixed update loop, all of the agents' elapsed functions are called at the same time, and the population manager keeps track of how many have had a failure state. Once this loop is completed a couple of hundred times, or more or less depending on how long you want it to be simulated, then all of the agents are stopped. They are then sorted, and the one with the best fitness has its genome saved to a file, just so you can continue from where you left off training it, or replay it later. Then finally, the genetic algorithm. The method used in this project is called tournament selection. A random number of agents are picked from the population between 2 and 4 for this, and the one with the best fitness out of all of them is chosen to be a parent. This process is then repeated, finding a different group of agents, and then the highest becomes the second parent. Now that we have created the genetic selection process, how are these genomes actually being used to create the bridge? Since I'm using my previously existing neural network system, I decided to generate bridges like this. I iterate the first array of genomes and use the values as XY coordinate pairs. I start from the anchor on the left, and each coordinate dictates where the next point will go, with a bridge piece connecting the last and current point. It also does some checks, such as making sure the length of the pieces does not exceed 2 units, and adding up the costs and other pre-physics simulation fitness calculations. Speaking of, how do I calculate the fitness for a bridge? It would be nice if the system could just look at an agent's output and say, yes, that looks very bridge-like. But it is more difficult than that to algorithmically tell how good a bridge is. In order to get the fitness calculation just right, I actually created multiple different methods and factors which are summed for the final value. First, of course, there's the simulation. In this, the distance from the car, which in this case is actually just a ball for simplicity's sake, is measured and scaled between 0 and 1. Next, I have one that counts the total number of anchors that the agent has not yet connected to, and adds the total distance from the nearest point. This is to encourage connecting to all of the anchors, since they will provide structural stability, and of course, a better bridge. After this, I have a time reward, where the agent is given a better fitness the longer it is alive. It is considered not alive if it has any failure condition, such as pieces breaking. Finally, there is a fitness modifier that rewards lower cost bridges, which is calculated by adding the cost of each bridge component multiplied by its length and averaging it. To finish this up, I added booleans, so you could manually
Elma Martin stream. Hey.
Hey, what's up, Martin stream? How you going?
Elma Martin stream. What's up, bro?
Not much. About to make a wither skeleton farm. I'm not in the right biome, but I kind of don't care, so...
Elma Martin stream. I'm good.
That's good.
Elma Martin stream. How long you stream?
You mean like, how long have I been streaming today, or like, just like how long have I been streaming?
Elma Martin stream. How long you stream in a day?
Today I've streamed like probably 6 hours or something like that. Maybe less. I don't know.
Elma Martin stream. Then why you don't upgrade your channel?
I don't have enough average viewers. Because most of the time I have 0 viewers.
Change if these factors affect the fitness from inside the editor. And now we have just one last part. I need to make sure that the simulation plays as close to the polybridge as possible. So I booted the game into sandbox mode and looked around to see where the specs of the materials and vehicles were. Luckily, after hovering over the vehicle, it tells me that the mass is 3 polygrams, which I assume can directly translate into Unity's physics modes. So I set that for the bulk. The roads and beams I can also hover over in the menu and view their cost per unit, as well as their mass.
Elma Martin
Unfortunately for
stream.
these, the value
I can
did
make
not
a good logo for you.
Thanks for the offer, mate, but I'm gonna have to pass.
Elma Martin stream. Give me your Discord.
I have a Discord server if you want to join it, but
form like polybridge inside my Unity simulation. This may have been due to the fact that I use hinge joints, whereas I don't really know what polybridge use. And
Elma
also
Martin
load
stream.
factors. So I
Check Discord.
decided to manually tweak the values through experimentation. I set up equivalent stress tests for the roads and wood pieces in both the game and my simulation, changing the values until they performed as closely to the game as possible. Now, it's finally time to test. I activated these fitness modifiers and began the simulation. Okay, well, maybe they'll get there eventually. Okay, so after some minor bug fixes, like incorrectly accessing places from an array, subtracting this when I shouldn't, not adding 2 at a time over here, and more, let's actually do this. Well, that turned out good in my opinion. It definitely is not a bridge I would be willing to drive over, and it has some unique qualities about it. But I'd say it definitely completes the task. Some of the original bridge designs were even more interesting, as they were very dynamic and more swing-like. I think that the biggest issue with using genetic algorithms to solve problems is that they always, and I mean always, find a way to cheat the game. See this example here. The fitness for this agent is calculated by the distance from the ball to the flag. But what would happen if the ball were to fall into this abyss here? Well, the agent would get a bad score. So what does the algorithm do? It keeps the ball from falling into the pit, and therefore it gets a better fitness. It isn't giving the solution we wanted, but it is still performing well because our reward function was not specific enough, which is actually a big problem with reinforcement learning in AI. Well, that's the video. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. If you did not, please hit the dislike button. And subscribe if you want to see more content like this.
Hello, what I've got.
Hello again. Welcome back. Flash games, a great relic of the 2000s. Today, we'll be ranking them in a tier list to determine which games are truly the best, and which are objectively poo-tier trash. If you were anything like me as a kid, then you probably spent a great deal of time on many different websites playing Flash games. I have fond memories of sites like Congregate, Nitrome, Cool Math Games, and each of these have their own personal identity and a catalog of games. Some good, some bad, and some just kinda strange. Today we'll be playing these games and pitting them against each other to determine which game is truly the best. As you may have heard, Adobe is ceasing support for Flash Player at the end of the year, so I figured I would make this video before this chunk of our history is erased. Keep in mind, this list is 100% objective fact and cannot be argued with. Anyway, let us begin. We'll start our journey with D tier, because as we all know, low-end mediocrity is far worse than abject failure. We begin our journey with a true classic, Bloxels. Probably a good game, but, simply put, this game. It really puts into perspective just how little functional brain cells I actually have. Yeah, sure, the game is probably good, but oh my god, just get in the hole! You gotta roll this rectangle prism guy into this hole right here. He doesn't fit horizontally, so you gotta roll him in vertically. Dude, just get in the fuck! Every level gets harder, and every waking minute I spend here decreases my IQ by several points. D tier. Trash. Don't ever talk to me again. Okay, moving on, we have Bubble Trouble. Wait, Bubble Struggle? Alright. Shoot bubbles, bubbles split into 2 more bubbles. Shoot more bubbles. Thrilling. Once again, I find myself utterly incapable of predicting the path of a bouncing bubble. Fuck! The first few levels are fairly easy, but then... Fuck! This game also features a 2-player mode designed to instill as much hatred for your fellow man as possible. This game fucking sucks, get out of here. Around medium D tier, we have Interactive Buddy. This game is bizarre. It's the only game I know of that allows you to brutally assault ex-President George W. Bush. This guy is our interactive buddy, who we can tickle, pick up, sing him a tune on the radio, and then set him on fire, throw infants at him, and nuke him from orbit. This game appeals to the sadistic masochist buried deep inside every child's mind. Like any classic CIA interrogation, there isn't actually an end goal. Of course, if you consider buying more powerful fun tools, and there is one, to get items and weapons you need money, which is earned by repeatedly throwing bowling balls into the poor guy's head. We can also use this money to dress our interactive buddy up as different people, like Republican, Democrat, Guerrilla Fighter, Teletubby. Who the fuck is Tom? The game also features different modes, like blood and gore. What the fuck? D tier. Weird. Cut the rope. I've played this game a lot. It's not great. Cut a rope and feed this little doll bludger his Centrelink payment. Wonderful. It's kinda satisfying to get the thing to get all 3 stars, but really, it's boring. D tier, go away. Moving quickly on to C tier, we have Duck Life. This game plays like Learn to Fly, but worse in almost every way. They made 4 of these, and they all play more or less the same. You get your duck, train him to become an elite CrossFit athlete, and then race him against other ducks. My strategy in this game is quite simple. Make your duck a literal supersonic jet for the flying event, and nothing else on all other events. Yeah, sure, the other ducks will gain the initial lead, but your flying will be so dominant that they will still lose. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that this measurement here is meters, which means our duck at max speed can go 1 kilometer per second. Then, feed your duck the most potent anabolic steroids money can buy and have him race. Now watch here as our duck starts out slowly, losing our initial lead to the other ducks in the race. The other ducks get to the cliff first, leap off and begin flying. Our duck comes along and leaps off the cliff and absolutely smokes these other plebs. Easy. C tier. C is for quack. Next up, we have Extreme Pamplona. You play as this runny away guy. Cool game, but very simple. The controls are literally 3 buttons. Just hold the right arrow and press up occasionally. You start in Pamplona, España, running away from a bull. Next up, you go to either Holland or Deutschland and run away from women. Stay safe, King. Then you get 2 of 3 choices. Just don't choose Switzerland, and you'll be good. Seriously, the ski guide does not mess around. Fuck! Once you've been chased through the entire country of France in 40 seconds, you arrive in Sweden, where you get chased by this fat guy through a bathhouse. To escape the bathhouse, you must use the surrounding fat guys and launch yourself to the upper floors. After you bounce off of the Swedish population, you go back to Spain and run back into the stadium with the bull chasing. C tier. Simple and good. Up next, we've got Heliasac 3. You play as this guy, who spends his days shooting down helicopters with a pistol, grenades, and many kooky weapons. Incredible. Occasionally, helicopters drop said weapons for you to better shoot down the other helicopter.
Azulka _ Jabasted.
Hey Azulka, good to see you again. Gonna make a whip a skeleton farm.
Each level has a quota that you must fulfill. Once you destroy the local rotary wing airspace, you move on to the next level. The next level has stronger helicopters for you to destroy. Once you reach the final level, you don't win. You enter the endless mode, which gets boring quite quickly. C tier. Commando! Ah yes, the first Commando game. This game is horrendously difficult. You have 3 lives to beat the entire game. What the fuck? You play as a British commando from World War II, tasked with single-handedly destroying the entire German army. You can shoot in exactly 2 directions, directly forward and straight up. The game also has pretty terrible input lag, health packs are spread really far apart, some of the platforming is just plain rude. And you only get 3 lives, oh my god! Hence why I wasn't able to finish the game despite playing it for a couple of hours. Besides the horrid difficulty, the game is actually pretty fun. When you come across a tank, I'd recommend using grenades like this. Nice. C tier. Starting off with B tier, we have Run 2, a true staple of the Cool Math Games universe. In this game, you play as a faceless grey blob wearing skates that runs. It runs, and keeps on running. Yeah. What is it running from? We don't know, but can only speculate. Finishing each level is really quite easy. The difficulty in this game is collecting these yellow dots. There is 1 per level, and they usually require some brain activation to get. I'll be honest, I never played this one much, but it's still pretty decent. B tier. Learn to Fly 1. The first game in the Learn to Fly trilogy. Now these games are pog. You play as this penguin who gets epic trollololled by a Wikipedia article stating that penguins are flightless birds. Our waddling protagonist then collects investment from someone and takes flight with the help of specially made penguin launching technology. Once again, I have to say it, this game is pog. To upgrade your equipment, you must gain money. To gain money, you need to fly for long duration at high altitude and high speed. At the end of the game, you get a fast glider and a big rocket and take off into the distance, only to smash into a giant iceberg that was somehow out of sight, permanently paralyzing our Pinguino from the neck down. Epic series, decent game. B tier. Next up, we toss. The Turtle. The best total cruelty simulator on the market. That's disturbing. You get a cannon and a slingshot and must fire this poor turtle as far as possible. Much like the Learn to Fly series, you earn money to get upgrades. These upgrades are then used to go further, to earn more money, and buy more upgrades. Now I spent around an hour and a half trying to complete this game before I realized that it never actually ends. Once you unlock all the best stuff, there's nothing else to do, and the game gets boring. Still fun though. B tier. Tanks. A classic multiplayer experience. Get your friends, and complain vigorously about the shitty game design. Shoot guys, airstrike guys, nuke guys, hot shower guys. Very nice. Tanks. B tier. Off the Rails. Very solid game about 2 sombrero-wearing cacti traversing the Mexican desert on a hand-powered railcar. Good soundtrack, nice art and animations, and the cacti go. Very good. B tier. Next up, we have Shopping Cart Hero. You play as this dude who throws himself in a shopping cart repeatedly off a cliff for clout. You can earn this clout to buy jet engines, afterburners, and friends to throw off the cliff. To get the most clout, you must perform tricks in a sequence, kinda like Tony Hawk. Very nice. B tier. Skywire 2. Not the most famous game out there, but certainly a good one. You're a cable car that needs to deliver these little tic-tac dudes to the end of each level, presumably on some fucked morning commute. Every mistake you make, one of the tic-tacs is ejected, sent to a watery demise. The music is solid, the level design and art are really good, the game is just good. Except for these purple fucks, they can go away. B tier. Finally, Papa's Games. All of them in general, because they're pretty much the same game. For this video I played Papa's Pizzeria, which involves the creation and poisoning of pizzas to deliver to unsuspecting customers. You take their order, place God knows what that is in a specific pattern, throw the pizza in the oven for a specific amount of time, and then slice it up and give it to them.
Well, I wanted the cum burger.
The difficulty comes with more customers and more orders for you to get mixed up with. I'm a really shit multitasker, so I find this game mentally challenging. Hi B tier. Good games. Welcome to A tier. From here on, we get what is known as the Ooh Yeah Zone, for games that make you go, ooh yeah. Our first ooh yeah of the video is Age of War. This game is a true classic, and its music is what I used in the intro. The game plays out on a 2D battlefield, where soldiers patiently line up and wait their turn to whack each other. You have a base, and the enemy has a base. To win, you simply destroy their base. The game has 3 types of units to choose from per age, and you can level up your base to create stronger ones. To cheese the game and win easily, I'd recommend abusing the pause mechanic. It resets all the animations of all the characters on screen, meaning if you have a ranged unit, he can fire at pretty stupid rates. Would recommend. A tier. Final Ninja Zero. Yet another, ooh yeah. You play as this ninja guy, who needs to run to an elevator in each level to win. You can run, jump, slide and jump off of walls, go invisible for sneaky stealth time, fling lots of shurikens at the bad guys, and also use shurikens as a grappling hook. Very fun, and quite good. A tier. N. You run, you jump. Sometimes you jump off of walls, sometimes you jump into mines, and sometimes you misjudge how high that ledge is. That's the game. Epic. To win, you have to reach this thing, which opens this door, and then run into said door. These yellow squares increase the time you have to do each series of levels. In total, there's something like 500 levels, which is pretty pog. A tier. Good job. Stick War. This game plays like Age of War if it was a campaign instead of a single battle. You mine resources to create units and make said units go and smack the enemies dead. Completing levels allows you to upgrade your existing units and sometimes access entirely new ones. To win, you smash the enemy statue on the other end of the map. The game gets progressively more difficult as more mechanics and units are introduced. My pro gamer tip would be buy lots of archers and use these mage guys. They can spawn these dumb little fucks at a very high rate while the archers go very good. A tier. Learn to Fly 3. Our penguin returns once again. Not to conquer atmospheric flight, but to go beyond and reach the moon. This game is a lot like Learn to Fly 1, but instead of sideways, you go up. Astounding. There are a few factors that determine the height of your flight. The capsule you use, the rockets you have access to, the side boosters you attach, the weight of the system, and the starting explosive you use. Anyway, yeah, good game. A tier. Ah yes, a true classic. Bloons Tower Defense 4. This game does everything a tower defense game can do right. The goal is extremely simple. Stop the hordes of balloons from making it to the end. To do this, you must place dart-flinging monkeys, boomerang-flinging monkeys, cruise missile launchers, monkeys, plane monkeys, etc. This game is great. A tier. Fat Cat. Another game from the best flash game site out there, Nitrome. You play as 2 characters at the same time. This little owl dude with the mouse, and this big ol' flying chonker with the keyboard. To win, you simply get the big boy to the end of each level without dying. The owl can shoot this machine gun thing, and the cat has a giant laser it can use. Like any Nitrome game, the graphics and sound design are really good. Everything feels satisfying, and the game is just generally kinda pog. Well done, Nitrome. A tier. We're done with A tier, on to S tier. Officially, the big boy zone. Starting off S tier, we have Happy Wheels. Do I even need to explain this one? You play as a diverse cast of scuffed characters that go through levels. There is somewhat realistic physics, and each character in the game can be exploded into several small pieces. The game is very open-ended, with literally millions of levels available to choose from the level browser. Nice. There are a near infinite amount of ways your poor character can eat dirt. My personal favourites would be getting repeatedly shot in the head with a crossbow, harpoons, and this giant combine thing. S tier. Motherlode. This game is truly one of the best, and well deserving of the big boy title. In it, you play as this mining thingy that needs to go down and collect valuable resources. The game starts with our good friend Mr. Natas giving us a briefing on what we're supposed to be doing here. Like the video if you show unconditional support and admiration for Mr. Natas. You get dropped off by this dropship thing onto the surface of Mars as a well-paid miner. Mr. Natas informs us that things have been kinda weird around here lately, so he's willing to pay a premium for miners like us to go down and dig. The deeper you dig, the more valuable resources you come across. Even things like ancient religious artifacts and Martian fossils can be found. You also get radio transmissions from other people, presumably mining as well. The deeper you go, the stranger they become. Mining and selling ores gives you cash to spend inside 3 shops. Equipment, upgrades, and fuel. I would highly recommend upgrading your fuel tank to a higher capacity because it runs out exceptionally quickly. Once you've dug down to 4,000 feet, things start getting... pretty strange. The radio communications are weirder, there are lots of impenetrable rocks and lava pockets, and sometimes the dirt just explodes and kills you instantly.
Epic.
Past 5,000 feet is too dangerous to use the drill, and explosives must be used to mine out dirt. At 6,000 feet, the altimeter goes all weird and doesn't tell you how deep you've gone. But you keep digging until you find the bottom. Once at the bottom, you enter a giant cavern, and who else to greet you down there but the trustworthy and admirable Mr. Nutters. His name backwards is... Satan. So naturally, you hit him with the... Well done. Oh fuck, it's Mecha Satan. Once again, you hit him with the... Very good game. S tier. Commando 2. The first shooter game that I properly played as a kid. In it, you play as the same guy from the first game, except he's learned to shoot at angles other than 90 degrees. Whatever the first game did wrong, this game did right. There are 4 levels, each with 3 levels of difficulty. You get 9 lives to complete the game, which may seem like a whole lot more than Commando 1, but it's actually still pretty low, especially considering how hard the later levels get. This time, our boy has been sent to the Pacific Theater to destroy the entire Imperial Japanese army, including whatever this thing is, this Kung Fu with an O warrior dude, a giant flying crab, and this samurai rocket. Need I say more? There are way more guns in the first game, and you get to organize them into a loadout, meaning you can carry more than one gun. Amazing. Great music, great art and animations, great backgrounds, great game. S tier. Learn to Fly 2. Now this game is not only POG, it has gone beyond and achieved
Mega Pog.
Our brave penguin returns with one goal: destroy the giant iceberg he flew into in the first game. To do this, Pinguino has enlisted the help of this vaguely penguin-shaped dummy for use as a high-powered, nuclear-armed hypersonic missile. Once again, our penguin has collected money from a mysterious investor and is using it in his ICBP program. The P is for penguin. To raise money, we must fly for a long duration at high speed and high altitude while destroying as many natural landmarks as possible. There's a snowman, snow pile, mountain, little iceberg, and finally, the wall. To effectively destroy the wall, I would recommend attaching a nuclear warhead to our brave Pinguino and firing him off into the distance. Epic. S tier. Best of the series. Amazing game. Stellar work. Incredible. How do they keep doing this? Raft Wars. The premier shooting people off rafts into shark-infested water game. Little Slim Tim over here finds his big old diamond while digging around in the sand at a local beach. A story is run in the newspaper, which prompts a bunch of different individuals to go and try take the treasure. You've got pirates, Vikings, gangbangers, your neighbors, these racially ambiguous men, and whatever these guys are. Nice. Naturally, you repeatedly shoot tennis balls at them until they fall into the water and drown. In the final level, your other neighbors have tied your parents to a tree who need to be rescued. You drown your remaining neighbors and rescue your parents to save the day. But then... Yeah! Sadly, your parents are evil, and also want the treasure. So you drown them too. Well done. Everyone you know is... was dead, but at least you got the bread. S tier. Bloons Tower Defense 5. Remember how I said BTD 4 did everything right? Well, this game does everything even more right. It adds heaps of features, lots of new towers, multiple upgrade paths to choose per tower, abilities, the monkey bank, etc. During my recording session of this game, I got a little past round 100, which plays more like a PowerPoint presentation than an actual game. Very good. This game is quite big, so I really can't do it justice in this video. Just take my word for it, it's a great game. S tier. Age of War 2. Similar to the first game, but better in every way. You start in the Caveman Age, and must advance to higher ages to acquire better units, stronger abilities, and more scuffed tactics. The ages are ordered a little strangely. First off, we got Caveman. Fair enough. Next is Spartan Age. Okay, yeah, that's like 1000 BC. Understandable. Next, the Ancient Egyptian Age. 4000 BC. Oh, yep. Then we jump forward 5000 years to the Medieval Age, which is full of fairies. Then we get Renaissance. Swordman. Handles the sword like nobody else does. Rifleman. Will not hesitate to use his musket to teach a lesson. Then we get Modern Age. Infantry Soldier. Will perform advanced combat tactics. Grenade Soldier. Will blow up rather, your mind. Wow.
Yeah, 1 second.